It was just another Tuesday evening in the heart of Chicago. The city buzzed with its usual energy cars honking, people rushing to catch trains, and the faint hum of conversation spilling out from restaurants and cafes. Keanu Reeves, one of Hollywood's most beloved stars, had wrapped up a long day on set filming his latest project. After hours under bright lights and surrounded by cameras, he was looking for something simple, a quiet place to unwind and grab a bite to eat. He wandered into a small Italian restaurant tucked away in the West Loop. It wasn't flashy or trendy, just the kind of spot where you could sit back, relax, and enjoy good food without much fuss. Friends had mentioned it to him before, saying the pasta was amazing and the atmosphere cozy. Perfect, he thought. Exactly what I need tonight. Keanu walked in wearing his signature casual-style jeans, a leather jacket, and sunglasses. He didn't want to draw attention to himself, so he slipped off his shades as soon as he stepped inside. The host greeted him warmly but quickly scanned the room, realizing there weren't any open tables. "Do you have a reservation?" the host asked politely. "No," Keanu replied softly, giving a small smile. "I was hoping maybe there'd be space since it doesn't look too busy." The host hesitated for a moment, glancing around at the half-filled dining area. Then came the manager, who appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Clad in a crisp suit, they carried themselves with an air of authority but also tension. Their face was tight, their movements sharp, like they were juggling 100 things at once. "Sir," the manager said abruptly, addressing Keanu, "we operate on a strict reservation policy. Without one, we can't accommodate you." Keanu blinked, taken aback by the tone. "Oh, okay," he said calmly, holding up his hand slightly as if to show he meant no trouble. "I understand, no problem." But instead of letting him leave quietly, the manager seemed to grow angrier. Witnesses later described how the manager's voice rose, accusing Keanu of being disrespectful and entitled. Words flew too fast for anyone nearby to fully process. Patrons seated near the entrance exchanged confused glances. Was this really happening? To Keanu Reeves? Before anyone could step in or say anything, the manager gestured toward the door, motioning for Keanu to leave. And just like that, the actor found himself standing outside on the sidewalk, stunned and unsure of what had just transpired. People inside the restaurant craned their necks to get a better look, whispering among themselves. Some pulled out their phones, snapping photos or recording videos. One patron captured a shot of Keanu standing there, still holding his helmet from the motorcycle he'd ridden to the restaurant. His expression was unreadable, a mix of confusion, disbelief, and maybe even amusement. That photo would soon explode across social media, sparking debates, outrage, and endless speculation about what had gone down inside those walls. For now, though, Keanu simply stood there for a moment, taking it all in. He shook his head lightly, almost as if chuckling at the absurdity of it all. Then, without making a scene, he hopped back onto his bike and disappeared into the Chicago night, leaving behind a room full of bewildered diners and a story that was about to take the internet by storm. Within minutes of Keanu stepping out of the restaurant, the photo taken by a diner inside the eatery started making its way online. Social media platforms lit up like fireworks on the 4th of July. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Here was Keanu Reeves, Mr. Nice Guy himself, the guy who gives up his seat on airplanes and donates millions to charity, standing outside a random Italian restaurant in Chicago, looking completely bewildered after being kicked out. The image spread like wildfire. Someone posted it on Twitter with the caption, "Is this real life? Did Keanu Reeves just get thrown out of a restaurant?" Within seconds, likes and retweets piled up faster than anyone could keep track. Comments flooded in from all corners of the globe. Some fans were outraged, calling the manager heartless and unreasonable. Others tried to play devil's advocate, suggesting maybe there was more to the story than met the eye. But one thing was clear. Everyone had an opinion. Reddit wasn't far behind. Threads popped up across multiple subreddits dissecting every possible detail of the incident. Users debated whether Keanu should have called ahead for a reservation, given that he's a celebrity. They speculated about the manager's motives. Was this really about rules, or was there some deeper tension at play? One user even joked, "If I ever meet Keanu, I'm not letting him leave without giving him my grandma's lasagna recipe." As the hours ticked by, hashtags began trending worldwide. Hashtag Justice for Keanu became a rallying cry for fans demanding answers. Memes started circulating two photoshopped images of Keanu sitting sadly next to a plate of spaghetti with the caption, "When you just wanted dinner but got drama instead." Even late-night talk show hosts jumped on the bandwagon, cracking jokes about the situation during their monologues. It seemed like the whole world was talking about it, but amidst all the noise, something interesting happened. A few voices emerged defending the manager. These weren't trolls trying to stir the pot. They were people who worked in the service industry themselves. They pointed out how stressful running a restaurant can be, especially in big cities like Chicago, where competition is fierce. "Maybe the manager was having a bad day," one person wrote. "You never know what someone else is going through." Despite these attempts at balance, the overwhelming sentiment leaned heavily in Keanu's favor. Fans clung to the idea that no matter how famous he is, Keanu has always been one of the most down-to-earth celebrities around. Stories surfaced reminding everyone of his humble nature, how he once gave away his entire salary from a movie to the special effects team, or how he once bought a new motorcycle only to give it to a stranger because they admired it. To many, this incident felt like a betrayal of everything Keanu stands for. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, the restaurant found itself caught in the middle of a media storm. Reporters camped outside, hoping to catch a glimpse of the manager or snag an exclusive interview. Phone calls poured in from news outlets asking for statements. Employees huddled together nervously, unsure of what to say or do. Nobody had expected things to escalate so quickly. What had started as a relatively quiet evening had turned into a global spectacle overnight. And yet, despite all the chaos swirling around them, Keanu remained silent. He didn't issue a statement, post on social media, or call a press conference. Instead, he disappeared from the public eye, leaving fans and critics alike waiting anxiously for his response. Would he lash out, defend himself, or would he handle the situation with the same grace and dignity he's known for? While the internet continued to buzz with theories and opinions, one question lingered in everyone's minds. What would happen next? Would the manager face consequences for their actions? Would Keanu address the incident publicly? Or would this whole episode fade away as quickly as it had blown up? For now, the only certainty was uncertainty, and the world watched eagerly, waiting to see how the story would unfold. Just when it seemed like the story couldn't get any more dramatic, a video surfaced online that changed everything. It wasn't some grainy clip filmed from across the room. This was a clear recording captured by another diner sitting close. Enough to hear every word exchanged between Keanu and the manager. The person who recorded it uploaded it to social media with a caption, "Here's what really happened at the restaurant last night." Within hours, millions of people had watched the footage, and what they saw painted a very different picture than the one that had been spreading across the internet. In the video, Keanu is seen walking into the restaurant, calm and unassuming. He chats briefly with the host, explaining that he doesn't have a reservation, but asking if there's any chance of getting a table since the place isn't packed. His tone is polite, almost hesitant, like he's trying not to inconvenience. Anyone. Then the manager appears, looking frazzled and stressed. At first, their voice is professional, but as the conversation continues, things take a sharp turn. You can't just walk in here expecting special treatment. The manager snaps, loud enough for nearby tables to overhear. Their face is flushed and their hands are clenched tightly at their sides. We're not running a charity. If you wanted a table, you should have called ahead. Keanu looks genuinely surprised, his eyebrows raising slightly. I'm not asking for anything special, he says softly, holding up his hands in a gesture of peace. I just thought maybe there'd be space available. No big deal if there isn't, but the manager doesn't back down. Instead, their frustration seems to grow. They accuse Keanu of acting entitled, of thinking he's above the rules because of who he is. By now, other diners are watching intently, whispering among themselves. One woman even mouths, "What is going on?" to her companion. The confrontation ends abruptly when the manager gestures toward the door, telling Keanu firmly that he needs to leave. Without arguing or making a scene, Keanu nods, grabs his helmet, and walks out quietly. As the video fades to black, viewers are left with the same question that had been swirling since the incident first broke. Why did this escalate so quickly? The video sparked a whole new wave of reactions. Some people doubled down on their support for Keanu, pointing out how calm and respectful he remained throughout the exchange. He didn't deserve that, one commenter wrote. He handled it way better than most people would have. Others, however, began to feel sympathy for the manager. Watching the clip closely, many noticed subtle signs of stress, the way the manager kept glancing nervously at the kitchen, the tension in their posture, the slight tremor in their voice. It was clear they were under immense pressure, though whether that justified their behavior was still up for debate. And then came the apology. Late that night, the manager posted a statement on Instagram. It was raw and heartfelt, written in a tone that suggested sleepless hours spent reflecting on what had happened. I want to start by saying I'm deeply sorry, the post began. Last night, I let my emotions get the best of me, and I treated someone unfairly. That's not who I am, or at least, it's not who I strive to be. The manager went on to explain the challenges they'd been facing. Running a small restaurant in a competitive city like Chicago wasn't easy, especially during tough economic times. Bills were piling up, staff shortages were becoming a constant headache, and the weight of keeping the business afloat was crushing. On top of all that, they revealed they'd been dealing with personal issues outside of work, leaving them emotionally drained. I know none of this excuses my actions, the manager admitted. What I said and did was wrong, and I regret it more than words can express. I hope Mr. Reeves knows that I never intended to disrespect him. I lost control, and I owe him and everyone else an apology for that. The post ended with a plea for understanding. To those who've supported me through this mess, thank you. To those who think I'm beyond redemption, I don't blame you. All I can do is promise to learn from this and try to be better moving forward. The apology added yet another layer of complexity to the story. For some, it was enough to shift their perspective entirely. Fans who had initially sided with Keanu started acknowledging the humanity behind the manager's actions. They messed up, sure, but we all make mistakes, one person tweeted. At least they owned up to it. Others weren't so quick to forgive. An apology doesn't erase what happened, argued another commenter. Keanu didn't deserve to be treated that way, no matter how stressed the manager was. Amidst the divided opinions, one thing became clear. This incident had struck a nerve because it tapped into universal themes: stress, accountability, forgiveness, and the gray areas of human behavior. People saw pieces of themselves in both. Keanu and the manager, who hasn't felt overwhelmed at work, who hasn't snapped at someone only to regret it later. And who hasn't wished for grace when they've made a mistake? As the days passed, the narrative shifted again. Attention turned to Keanu, with fans eagerly awaiting his response. Would he address the apology publicly? Would he hold a grudge, or would he extend compassion? The world held its breath, knowing that whatever he chose to do next would define the final chapter of this wild story. When Keanu finally broke his silence, it wasn't with a grand statement or a flashy social media post. Instead, he did what he's always done best: handled the situation with quiet grace and genuine empathy. His response came through his representatives, in the form of a carefully worded statement that managed to surprise everyone, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so deeply human. The statement began by acknowledging the manager's apology. Keanu understands that running a small business comes with enormous challenges, it read. He appreciates the manager's willingness to reflect on the incident and offer an apology. Mistakes happen, and we're all human. But Keanu didn't stop there. In true Keanu fashion, he went a step further. The statement revealed that he had reached out privately to the manager, not to confront them or demand anything, but simply to express that he held no hard feelings. He even thanked them for their honesty in owning up to their actions. It was the kind of move that only someone like Keanu could pull off, turning a moment of conflict into an opportunity for connection. What happened next, however, took things to a whole new level. Keanu didn't just let the story fade away. Instead, he decided to channel the attention surrounding the incident into something positive. Within days, news broke that he had teamed up with local charities to launch a fundraising campaign aimed at supporting struggling restaurants in Chicago. The initiative was called Feeding the City, and its goal was simple yet powerful: to provide financial relief to eateries hit hard by rising costs, staffing shortages, and other challenges brought on by the pandemic and economic uncertainty. Campaign quickly gained traction. Fans around the world rallied behind it, eager to contribute in Keanu's name. Donations poured in from all corners, from die-hard admirers who saw this as another example of his kindness to casual observers who were moved by the gesture. Even celebrities joined in, amplifying the message on their own platforms. Within a week, the fundraiser exceeded its initial target, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to help dozens of restaurants keep their doors open. Keanu didn't seek the spotlight for this effort either. When reporters reached out for interviews, his team politely declined, emphasizing that the focus should remain on the cause, not the person behind it. Still, photos surfaced of him visiting some of the participating restaurants, chatting with owners and staff, and even helping out in the kitchen when needed. He wore an apron over his usual jeans and jacket combo, laughing alongside chefs and servers as if he'd been part of the team for years. These images circulated widely, adding warmth and authenticity to the campaign. One restaurant owner shared their experience in a heartfelt Instagram post. "We were on the verge of closing our doors forever," they wrote. Then Keanu showed up not with fanfare, but with real support. He listened to our struggles, rolled up his sleeves, and helped us find solutions. We can't thank him enough. The post included a picture of Keanu standing behind the counter, holding a tray of freshly baked bread, smiling warmly at the camera. As the campaign gained momentum, it sparked conversations about the importance of supporting small businesses. People began sharing stories of their favorite local spots, the hidden gems that made their communities feel like home. Some organized mini fundraisers of their own, inspired by Keanu's example. Others started leaving larger tips at restaurants, or ordering takeout more frequently to show their appreciation for hardworking staff. What had begun as a single incident in one Chicago eatery had blossomed into a broader movement, one rooted in compassion and solidarity. Even the manager, whose actions had set everything in motion, found themselves swept up in the wave of goodwill. After Keanu's private outreach, they released another statement, this time expressing gratitude for his understanding. "I never expected kindness in return after my behavior," they admitted. "But Mr. Reeves reminded me that forgiveness is possible, even in the hardest moments. I'll carry that lesson with me always." Their words resonated deeply with many, reinforcing the idea that redemption is attainable if we're willing to extend grace to others and to ourselves. The manager also announced plans to volunteer with Feeding the City, using their experience to mentor other struggling restaurateurs. It was a full-circle moment, one that highlighted how even a full-circle moment, one that highlighted how even the most difficult situations can lead to growth and healing. By now, the narrative had shifted entirely. What had started as a chaotic, controversial evening in a Chicago restaurant had evolved into a story of resilience, community, and second chances. And while Keanu remained at the center of it all, he continued to deflect praise, focusing instead on the bigger picture. In interviews with close friends and colleagues, it became clear that this approach wasn't unusual for him. They described him as someone who genuinely believes in lifting others up, whether through acts of kindness or simply by listening. "He doesn't do these things for recognition," one longtime friend told a reporter. "For him, it's about making a difference, however small. If he can help someone get back on their feet or give them hope during tough times, he'll do it without hesitation." As the weeks went by, the fundraising campaign continued to thrive, drawing attention to the struggles faced by small businesses everywhere. Meanwhile, the restaurant where the incident had occurred saw a surge in customers eager to show support for the manager and staff. Patrons left glowing reviews online, praising the food, the atmosphere, and the sense of redemption that seemed to hang in the air. Some even joked about ordering the Keanu special, a dish the chef jokingly named in honor of the actor. Through it all, Keanu stayed true to himself, humble, grounded, and endlessly compassionate. He proved once again that his reputation as one of Hollywood's nicest guys isn't just a facade. It's a reflection of who he is at his core. And while the drama of that fateful night might have faded, the impact of his response would linger for a long time to come. In the weeks that followed, the story of Keanu Reeves and the Chicago restaurant became more than just a fleeting headline. It turned into something bigger, a symbol of how moments of conflict can be transformed into opportunities for connection, understanding, and growth. People around the world couldn't stop talking about it, not because of the drama itself, but because of the way everyone involved had handled it. For the manager, life slowly began to return to normal, but with a newfound sense of purpose. After publicly apologizing and throwing themselves into volunteering with Feeding the City, they started receiving messages from strangers who were inspired by their courage in owning up to their mistakes. Some shared their own stories of regret and redemption, while others simply thanked them for reminding us all that no one is perfect. The manager admitted in a follow-up interview that those messages meant the world to them. "It's been humbling," they said. "I made a huge error, and I'll carry that with me forever. But what's helped me move forward is knowing that people are willing to forgive. And honestly, if someone like Keanu Reeves can see the good in me after everything, then maybe I can start seeing it too." The restaurant also saw a surprising uptick in business. Customers came not out of pity or curiosity, but because they wanted to support someone who had shown vulnerability and a willingness to change. One diner even left a note on their receipt. "Thank you for reminding us that second chances matter." The manager framed it and hung it near the cash register, a small reminder of how far they'd come since that chaotic night. As for Keanu, he continued doing what he does best, staying low-key and letting his actions speak louder than words. He didn't seek interviews or media attention for the fundraising campaign. Instead, he let the community take the lead. Local news outlets covered the initiative extensively, highlighting the stories of restaurants that benefited from the funds. Owners spoke passionately about how the donations allowed them to keep staff employed, upgrade equipment, or even expand their menus. Each success story added another layer to the legacy of kindness that Keanu had sparked. But perhaps the most touching part of it all was how the campaign brought people together. Strangers bonded over shared meals at participating restaurants, swapping stories about why they chose to support the cause. Families made it a point to visit spots they'd never tried before, turning evenings out into acts of solidarity. Even kids got involved, drawing pictures of Keanu riding motorcycles and delivering food to struggling businesses. Those drawings ended up taped to the walls of several eateries, adding a personal touch to the growing movement. Keanu himself remained a quiet presence throughout. Occasionally, he dropped by one of the restaurants to check in, always blending seamlessly into the background. Staff would later recount how he'd ask thoughtful questions about their day, compliment their cooking, or offer words of encouragement when things felt overwhelming. He wasn't there to make headlines, he was there to connect, to show that he cared. One chef recalled how Keanu spent an entire afternoon helping prep ingredients in the kitchen. He chopped vegetables like a pro, the chef joked. By the time we closed, he knew exactly where we kept the spices and which pots needed replacing. It was like having an extra pair of hands and a really cool friend. The ripple effects of the incident extended beyond Chicago. Other cities caught wind of the Feeding the City campaign and launched similar efforts to support local businesses. From Los Angeles to London, people rallied around the idea that small acts of kindness could create big change. Social media played a huge role in spreading the message, with hashtags like #PayItForward and #SupportLocal trending alongside updates about the original fundraiser. Restaurants everywhere reported increased foot traffic as customers sought ways to contribute. Even critics who had initially dismissed the incident as overblown found themselves won over by the positivity it generated. One columnist wrote, "We live in a world that thrives on outrage, where every misstep becomes fodder for endless debate." But this story reminds us that there's another path, one built on empathy, forgiveness, and action. Thank you, Keanu, for showing us the way. Looking back, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what made this story so special. Was it Keanu's unwavering grace under pressure? The manager's brave apology? The outpouring of support from fans and strangers alike? Or was it the simple fact that everyone involved chose to focus on solutions rather than blame? Maybe it was all of those things combined. At its core, this was a human story, one filled with imperfections, misunderstandings, and ultimately, redemption. It showed that even in moments of tension, there's always room for compassion. That forgiveness isn't a sign of weakness, but of strength. And that sometimes, the smallest gestures, a private phone call, a fundraising campaign, a plate of pasta shared between strangers can have the biggest impact. As the dust settled, the restaurant in Chicago remained standing, stronger than ever. Its walls bore witness to a remarkable journey from a heated confrontation to a global movement. For the manager, it was a lesson in humility and resilience. For Keanu, it was yet another chapter in a life defined by selflessness and heart. And for everyone else, it was a reminder that we're all connected, bound together by our shared humanity. So, the next time you walk into a small restaurant, take a moment to appreciate the effort that goes into keeping it running. Smile at the staff, leave a generous tip, or strike up a conversation with the person behind the counter. You never know, you might just be part of someone else's unforgettable story.